Okay, let's go back to earlier this month. The UK number 1, GM Michael Adams 2722 met the US number 1, Hikaru Nakamura 2783 in the FIDE Grand Prix London tournament held in London. And it wasn't one of Hikaru's greatest tournaments in his career as a Super Grandmaster, to be quite honest. He did lose a number of games. I don't want to give the game away for this one, but you might expect the results, yes, based on what I've said and the orientation of the board. Let's have a look at the game. E4 from Michael. Okay, and we see Nakamura initially playing a very solid game with the Caro-Kann, and we go through this mainline Caro-Kann, where Black doesn't mind just occupying like the first 3 ranks for a number of moves. All of Black's forces on the first 3 ranks in this variation, but very, very solid. So after knight d7, h5, we get a bishop exchange now. After e6 is all theory. Bishop d2, White's preparing to castle queenside. After knight gf6, White castles queenside here, queen c7. Okay, now here knight e4, which is an interesting plan. Liberating maybe the g pawn if Black dares to castle kingside later. Nakamura's wiped out people from White probably in that position, but actually, is that the game I'm thinking of? Nope. There's a Kamsky against Yasusowa game from the US Championship where Black was wiped out castling kingside here. Okay, Nakamura is not yet committed to castling kingside. He plays bishop e7. He's still got flexibility for castling queenside if needed. King b1. But actually, castling queenside is ruled out now with the next move. Rook d8. Okay. White takes on f6. Knight takes another queen e2. Naka plays c5, which does liberate his position a little bit. D takes c5, queen takes c5, but this knight outpost is now very useful, knight e5. It's eyeing sensitive squares. It's actually supporting c4, which might be a useful resource defensively. So rook d4 looks to be a very direct, perhaps too direct, and perhaps too decentralizing plan here with the rook. So watch the rooks and coordination. Sometimes just keeping control of the central file, like we've just seen actually in the early video today, the Nakamura win against Simon Williams. Keeping control of the central file is often more important than being very committed to a kingside attack. And we see with this rook d4 that the intention is really to go for a, almost like very crude direct kingside attack soon, with possibilities of rook a4. Okay, being quite tempting, but is it the sort of thing you want to do with Black here? So we see now f4. After castles, the rook is asked to leave d4 with this next move, c3. So perhaps, objectively speaking, the rook should consider just scurrying back to d8 here. But no. Maybe Naka was already kind of annoyed with the tournament already and just wanted to have fun and play some direct attacking chess. But the basic consequence now of this next move, rook a4, could be argued as irreparable damage. If White controls that centre file and has got entry routes into the position like d7, this is very, very flexible for getting into Black's position through the centre. If the rooks coordinate through the centre, these rooks are not talking to each other much. By contrast, this next move by Michael Adams, c4, okay, gives the bishop maybe the c3 square if needed. Generally, it looks like a nice move also to keep the knight out of d5. So how is the rook going to be justified on a4 without more attacking resources being able to be used? Is Black going to try and use the B file, try and play for B5. That's also of course discouraged by C4 as well. Okay, so it's an interesting position after C4 here. Is this rook just totally misplaced, or can it be supported? Can the knight support it? Can this rook support it via a B5 break? Well, okay, bishop D6 is played here, trying to get rid of this knight on E5. So basically undermining C4. It's supported though with bishop C3 for the moment. After takes, now this C pawn is loose. Once the knight moves, the knight goes to H7. Pardon me. Pardon me. So now can be prepared to go to G5, and white hasn't got a straightforward plan of breaking open lines frontally against the king, but white does have the D file. For the moment he has to do something about C4. He protects it, gaining a tempo on that rook. The rook goes to A6. The rook is kept out of the D file for the moment. I guess it could go back to help contest things like this, but E5 keeps it out of D6 for the moment. And we see a quick rook on the 7th, rook D7, immediately threatening things like rook takes B7. But for the moment in this position, knight G5 is played. Perhaps rook takes B7 is premature for some tactical reasons, which we'll check out in the second pass. For the moment the rook's just reinforced with the other one, and we see both rooks really talking to each other, coordinating, and lateral pressure. Okay, and this pawn is now protected, but now the rook, one pair of rooks is taken off, and already black's position is super critical. It's virtually I believe that actually this is a completely lost position for black. White has forcing moves to just emphasize how lost black's position is. Basically, the first forcing move is queen c2 check, and black has to react with g6. Basically, f5 we just take en passant. Okay, so g6, and now rook d7, which is now threatening queen takes g6 check. It looks like a totally disastrous position. Naka is lost here. There's nothing really to say. He's completely lost. So king g8, h takes g6, just tearing into black's king safety, now threatening g takes and queen g6. King g7, okay, losing another pawn. Okay, g takes f7, knight takes f7, and now just a little queen move, very powerful. Just queen d2 here. No need to go for any clever stuff like sacrificing the exchange or anything. No, just queen e2 with the idea of just coming into g4 is sufficient. King comes out of the firing line a little bit or not. Nope, not really. The purpose of that is perhaps to answer queen g4 with knight g5. It's just unpinning the knight. However, the queen now goes to f3, eyeing f7 again, and if knight takes e5, queen g3 looks pretty strong. It is all over. Queen f8. Michael Adams picks up another pawn on the queen side. Black's not in a position to do much here. There's also now, well, there's numerous threats, but bishop b4 is also coming into mind, supported by that rook on b7 to kick the queen there. That's very unpleasant, among other things. Queen g7 is played. Okay, and now we see after king b2, black's not really going anywhere. This knight's pinned again to the queen, and Naka's had enough actually here. He resigned. Basically, it seems as though Naka totally decentralized and uncoordinated his rooks. Michael Adams, to his credit, squashed any serious threats to his king. So let's have a look at the game in overview and summary. Black just resigned here, but do a quick check of this final position. So if queen g6, okay, b7 or c5, which one should we go for? Rook d7. If queen f5, queen b7, hitting the rook on there. if check, okay, bishop d2, rook moves, queen c7, hitting the rook again, and I think this is winning material. If the rook goes to a6, then queen c8 check. If the rook takes on e5, I think we have rook takes f7, or is there stronger? Just check first to make sure this is check, or even just taking care of the pin, even better. So yeah, I think this rook is actually lost here. If rook c5, I think just rook takes f7 here. No, rook takes f7 as queen takes d2. That would be a terrible blunder. No, what would be the move here? Just queen takes a7 is sufficient. And black's totally tied in knots. And now b4 here. Just using that pin. Okay. So yeah, this looks unpleasant as an idea. This is an example, just an example game continuation. But black is of course 2 pawns down. But this is an example way of playing it. So rook d7 looks good for allowing bishop d2 for the queen to join the rook on the 7th. Okay, so let's go back in the game and see the evaluation shifts. So standard Caro-Kann mainline opening theory here. Black's okay, committed now to castling perhaps kingside now after rook d8. I think castling queenside looks like a more standard move actually than rook d8. So now we look at this interesting idea. Naka uses this rook d4. Okay, I think you see the evaluation shift from an engine perspective, but why is that? There could be very deep tactical reasons already that the engine's seeing for this. After c3, okay, we see rook e4 as the preferred move here, not rook a4. So the rook is actually shut out now with c4 from coming back like this. And we get now, okay, white's building up an advantage, it seems. Evaluation going up to nearly a pawn advantage now. White controlling that 7th rank. And okay, that pawn does seem... Actually, was it actually loose here? Shall we just quickly check? Was there a trap here? Rook takes b7, queen c6. If the rook is forced to go over there, knight e4. Okay, it's not needed. This counterplay is not needed from black to be allowed. So rook hd1 seems actually even the engine really likes rook hd1, not taking the pawn immediately, taking time. And now just exchanging off ricks, really brutal, +5 after rook b8, +5. So disastrous move perhaps. b5 maybe to be preferred. Try and generate counterplay on the b file. Using that pin, it seems much more sensible. Bishop d4, queen c6. This is still a game. Actually, is taking here possible? Rook d8. It will still be a game. Not so bad. This continuation with b5 anyway. So rook b8. Basically, I mean, if you look at the forcing sequence after rook b8 on move 26, believe it or not, this just looks completely lost now after rook b8. The forcing sequence just makes a clear transition to this completely lost position after queen c2 check. Rook d7 again, all forcing moves basically. Hg, g takes. Huge advantage for white. White can win in probably multiple ways here. Queen f3, yeah, forcing the queen back. And after king b2, black, I believe, resigns here, and we saw an example game continuation. Okay, not Naka's best game. Maybe, maybe sometimes I think, yeah, blitz players do sometimes get bad habits, but you wonder if they ever creep into long games. Maybe this is slight evidence that some bad habits have crept into Naka's long game here, or was he just having a bad tournament? It's really, well, you know, he's got a higher FIDE rating basically than 90, well, than everyone on YouTube probably watching videos on YouTube that will ever have in their life. 2783. So we can just say he was having fun. Maybe he took some risks, they didn't work out. Okay, and I think really he's tweeted to that effect that winning or losing is not as important as just having some fun. I mean, that's the whole point of chess. Otherwise, you know, we could all just be accountants or something. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.